couches, and I just laying down like this. I was like, God, you could have my ideas about inner healing. And if you give them back, that's okay. And if you don't give them back, that's okay. And I said, you could have my ideas about outer healing, like getting physically healed. Because I had a slip disc at the time, and I said, if you give them back, that's okay. If you don't give them back, that's okay. Mm-hmm. I was ready for a clean sweep because he has no lie and no deception in him. Mm-hmm. So if I surrender all, I lose nothing that I needed to keep. Mm-hmm. And so I had like monumental amount of stuff where I was like, well, this means this, and this means this, and this means this, and this is the reason why this should fit here. And somehow all my puzzle pieces didn't fit together. It was like I had a puzzle that I was kind of force fit some things, but when you do that, then it doesn't make the rest of the puzzle work. And then you have somebody come in and point that thing out, and you're like, I don't feel comfortable with this. And it just all collapsed on me. I had built up sandcastles, and just it came to an end. And I came to the end of myself, and it was the best place I could be. It was terrible, but it was wonderful all wrapped in one. Because you know why? It says God gives grace to the humble. So you have two choices with humility. Either you can humble yourself, or God will humble you. The second one is not fun, but it's awesome. You receive that grace. And then I just stayed in this place right here, because that's something that clicked for me. I was like, okay, I can stay here. That's the presence of God. That's the power of God, the love of God. But I didn't have words for it. I did not have scriptural understanding yet at that point. I had a theological sweep. And, but it was about a month later that I realized, oh my gosh, I don't even have doubt down here. This needs help. This needs renewal. This is messed up. But it's God. I have one spirit with God. And I was like, I just spoke out. I said, I have a completely light heart. Demonic influence left me like that. Emotional pain left me instantly. Feeling not forgiven left me like that. I believed, and therefore I received. But you know what? It wasn't this. It was this. And so all your discernment comes out of this. Amen. Because there's things that will conflict with this that don't conflict with this. So learn to be led by this and not by this. And then later on, you'll get the connect of, oh, here's why that's true. But the problem is when people try to put this first and figure out why it's true instead of surrendering to do it. Because John 7:17 says, anyone that is willing to do the will of the Father will know the teaching, whether it is from heaven or it is from myself. Amen. They were blinded when the author of life stood right in front of them, and they twisted his words all day long. So they had the best teacher standing right there, speaking 100% truth because he is 100% truth, and they still messed it up because their heart wasn't right to actually do and actually change and actually adjust things. But you know, the ones that were his disciples, the doers, the imitators, the ones that were living a life of discipline, being obedient to him, he says, you have words in life. When they said something, they did not understand, like, drink my flesh, or eat my flesh and drink my blood. It's like, a lot of people just stopped at that point. They're like, the law says no cannibalism. You see, it didn't even make sense scripturally at the point, but they weren't seeing the spiritual reality above that. He wasn't contradicting the word. He was the word standing right there. And so then he asked his disciples, hey, are you guys going to go too? He said, where else would we go? You have the words of life. But you know what? The Pharisees couldn't recognize the life because they weren't willing to do. So the discernment's inside of you, but oftentimes like we have a blanket or a covering over it, or we're not able to discern. But it says by reason of use, you are able to discern good and evil. So if you step out on what you know is true, even if you're not super confident in it yet, it just becomes clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer, where there isn't this second guessing thing about and you just get confident on it. I mean, it's like the first time you learned 2 + 2 is 4, you had to count on your fingers, and you're like, Okay, 2 groups right here, 2 right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're like, is that right? Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then next time somebody asks you, you're like, 2 plus 2 is 4. Yeah, of course. You're not going like,
Amen. Don't go back to baby stuff.
yeah. So that's what it's like in God, but in Hebrews, some of you have come to need milk again. So in other words, they learned 2 plus 2 is 4, but they stopped practicing and they let their self spiritually atrophy. So they have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 again. Rather than just go 4 automatically. Okay, to the scriptures. 1 John, my phone moved. Or I moved my phone. Okay, 1 John 4, starting at verse 1. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. By this know the Spirit of God.